Today, I have Anne Van Ordsdel on the show. Anne is an intuitive coach, mentor, and medium. Her mantra of believe, know, grow serves as a catalyst for turning personal power into a divinely inspired life. She connects with the energy of individuals and that of the spirit world. Anne is passionate about the link between life in the physical body and our spiritual afterlife. For over 15 years, Anne has worked with spirit and makes personal unfoldment a top priority. She's completed testing with Mark Ireland's Find a Certified Medium program and is a certified medium practitioner with Helping Parents Heal. Anne regularly attends Arthur Findlay College and other spiritual education venues throughout the US, UK, and Netherlands. Anne is committed to continued growth in all aspects of mediumship and has made healing a lifelong mission. Welcome to the program, Anne.
Thank you so much, Marla. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I think about us going back and first
Yeah.
meetings at Suzanne Giesman's workshop for mediumship in Sedona.
Yes.
And that's where our journey started. And we just sort of kept in touch. And I'm so proud of you that you've built this incredible, I guess I'll call it business. But you're on this journey and you're doing it full time now, right?
I am doing it full time. I walked away
Yes,
from the corporate world. Yes,
right.
doing
Well,
it completely.
just for my listeners, I've had a few readings with Anne, as has my mother-in-law, and she's amazing. I'm going to share a little bit of that a little about later. But Anne, let's just start about how you began your journey.
Absolutely. Well, I always say I think that I was aware of my abilities as a child, although I pushed them aside. I think many people will say that. We all have that natural ability to tap into the other side, although we don't all use it. So for me, it really came more strongly after I had my two children. I have two boys. And so when I was in my early 30s, mid 30s, I really started feeling a pull. I couldn't describe it really or explain why. I just knew I was really interested in death, dying, the afterlife. I had a real fear actually as a child of dying. And I think that part of my healing process going through mediumship is to be comforted by the fact that we don't truly die. We transition to that next phase of life. So I think that was very, very clear for me as I was being pulled and had that interest. And so as I was looking for answers on my journey, I started to take classes in mediumship, really understand what was it I was feeling. And I did have a now well-known medium, Rebecca Rosen, out of the Denver, Colorado area where I was living at the time. I took a class with her and she said to me afterwards, well, you're a medium. And I said, oh no, I'm just here to, explore this and get
Right.
some answers. Never thinking at all that it would be a path that I would see myself living day to day. And at that time, she also told me, without a doubt, using my grandmother's name, that my grandmother's working with me. And I was only 3 years old when my grandmother passed, so I didn't know her in life. And everything that Rebecca told me about my grandmother, I could validate with my mom after that session. So I knew there was some truth to this. I just didn't know where it would go.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
And
yeah,
and that was the prediction from the medium that you've talked about in terms
it
of your
was.
becoming a
Yeah,
medium.
it
Wow.
was. And there were other things that she said to me at the time. She knew what kind of work I was in, advertising and marketing. She knew that I owned my own business. So there were other things. And we all have these experiences, I think, as well, when you sit with a medium or when you meet someone that truly touches your life in these real life-changing, drastic ways. There's usually that nugget that you have a hard time shaking because it's real and it's truth. And so there were a few of those that day for me. And, from that moment, I just started to really say, if this is what, my path is to be, then let's go on this journey. Let's do it, Spirit. And in 2016, took my first visit to the Arthur Findlay College. I felt like going there would give me the answers I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And it really did, because I walked in those halls and I felt like I was home. And everyone that was there, although very different levels, different interests, had that same feeling. We just kind of came together in oneness, if you will. And since then, I realized the importance of truly studying and making the unfoldment practice a part of my regular routine. Right. And so since then, I've been back several times, as well as to some other places to study. And I think it's a really important part for me of how I work on my own unfoldment.
Can you talk a little bit about giving readings to your friends in the horse barn?
Oh, yes, that's always fun. So when I started, what you're referring to, Marla, is when I first started out, I thought, how am I going to know if this is real? How am I going to know if I have any abilities whatsoever? And at the time, and I was living in Denver, I was very involved in equestrian sport. I rode hunter jumpers, and I was competitive. I rode in California, Florida, all over the country, and had a really great core group of friends in this stable. And some were riders themselves, some were the parents of younger riders, but we would always come together and have kind of this social time. And as word started to spread that Anne could talk to the dead, it was a little bit of a sideshow, to be honest with you. And I said, well, you know what, if you let me practice on you, great, let's do it. And I think that I surprised not only them, but I surprised myself. Because that was one of the things actually that my early mentors said was, just practice. Anyone that will let you practice on them, just do it. Because you have to start feeling what it is to be a medium. You can't just say, I am one, or I desire to be one. Because quite frankly, I didn't desire to be one at all. It wasn't something I was seeking. My parents were both living at the time. I hadn't lost anyone close to me. I wasn't seeking answers or connection in that way. And I know that that is oftentimes the catalyst for others. They have a life, journey such as yourself that takes you down that path of really wanting to know that your loved ones are with you. That wasn't particularly my path. So I really had a lot of doubt and question. And thank goodness my friends were there to, be ready to say, let's do this, let's give it a try. So I really relied on that for several years and kept practicing and kept studying until I felt like, okay, it's time now to branch out. I pretty much knew most of the things that Spirit was going to tell me about this core group of friends. It was time for me now to branch out and right. Work with others. Yeah.
Right. How does Spirit come to you?
Oh, that's a great question. It's different, and it still is different. It changes, I was actually just talking with one of my mentors this morning, and we were talking about how I worked before, meaning the last couple of years, and how I'm working and evolving now, how that's changing. And I think what's important for people to know is that I can't make myself a medium. You can't make me a medium. No teacher can make me a medium. Spirit does it. This is very Spirit-led. And so how they come to you depends on really where you are in your own development. Mm-hmm. So for me, initially, it was a knowing. It started out very clairsentient, a feeling or knowing. And I really can't explain it more than that. It was just, I would be in the presence of others and I would have almost like little flashes. Or just as you might meet someone and you would get a first impression of their warm personality, or they're very generous or something of that nature. That's how it would start. But then it would go further for me, and it would go further to, oh, they're quite lonely, or they're missing someone, or why am I being shown a movie theater and I'm smelling popcorn. What does that mean to them? And I'd later find out that they owned a movie theater as a family and it was in the family for generations, sort of thing. Things like that would come up. And so it was more of a knowing when I first started. It still is a knowing, but how it's evolved for me is spirit is now able to use various clairs, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, all at once.
Wow.
So it's almost as getting that full download of the story or the impression, whatever it is spirit wants to provide to me, all at the same time. So it's evolved in great ways, meaning the clarity of the message or the clarity of the evidence that's coming through. Even things, how there are certainly, like if a spirit comes through and they would be smoking a pipe, I would smell that. That's a very different smell from, say, cigarette smoke. And so I would bring that up as part of the evidence for a sitter. And that comes through and has evolved. Yeah.
Wow. I remember, well, I've had a few readings with you, and one that just pops into my mind is you were having a gallery reading. And I never go to things like that, just, and plus it was at 5 o'clock, it was kind of time to be winding down. And I thought, I just felt like I've got to go on. I've got to go on. So, there were 5 or 6 people on, and you started talking about that you were seeing a signed baseball in a small glass box. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I walk into my son's bedroom as we're talking, and there are 2, not only one, but 2 signed baseballs in these little glass carriers, or whatever you want to call them, that my husband and son had gotten at a silent auction. But it was just and you shared a few other things too, but it was just crazy. So, or not crazy, it was beautiful. So when were a couple of, when you first started this work, kind of like aha moments, like, wow, now I know. Now I know.
Now you can't deny it anymore.
Right.
Gosh, I have to say there's been so many, but one that really stands out for me was I was with my friends from the stable, and we were having a kind of a barbecue at someone's home, and there were a few new people there. And I was immediately pulled to one of the gentlemen in the group who had just moved to the area and was actually working at the stables. And I didn't know why when he walked in, I felt that connection, but it was almost as if we knew each other before, almost a deja vu kind of thing. And once everybody, had kind of relaxed and found their place to sit and whatnot, we sat near each other. And I said, I think he brought up something about knowing I was a medium and how does that work? And he was very curious. And I just couldn't hold back. And I had all of this information coming through for him that was so powerful. Before either of us knew what had happened, we had a small crowd around us. We were oblivious to the fact that but he was crying at happy tears, and he was very happy to hear from a friend of his who had departed a couple of years prior. And what I didn't realize at the time was how badly he was hurting. And later found out that he was suicidal. And he shared with me the day after this experience how I saved his life. And I thought, okay, this is bigger than me or some ability. This is truly healing.
Yeah.
That's when I knew it was really healing, I think. And he said, based on what you told me and what, my friend shared with me, I have a lot of work to do left here. And I won't let him down. I won't take my life. I won't do that. I won't do that to the people I love who are still here. Mm-hmm. So for him, it really, really changed his path completely. So I remember going home that night and saying to my husband, I woke him up and I said, this is real. This is real. And I don't know where it's going, but it's real. And I think he said something like, okay, honey, go to sleep. But really, it was absolutely, that was certainly one of the moments. Another one that comes to mind was I was with a friend who I hadn't seen since high school. And here we are in our 40s, and we were chit-chatting away. And she said, yeah, I've heard that you're doing this work. And she said, I hope you don't mind, but I invited a friend to lunch. We met for lunch. And I said, oh, okay, great. Well, this is sometimes what happens too. You get surprised by what strangers show up when you think you're having, a friends reconnecting lunch, and then somebody you've never met shows up at the table, which is what happened in this case. But I don't, I don't begrudge her that. I've forgiven her. But this friend came and she sat down. She was so beautiful. I remember my first reaction to her was that she was just stunning and beautiful. Very tall, gorgeous woman, could be a model in any book. And I was just kind of taken aback by her. She got up, she went to the restroom, and my friend said, I'm really sorry to bombard you like this, but do you get any feelings around her? And I said, well, I don't think I should say what I'm feeling, but yes. So I ended up telling her what I was getting in it. And the short story of it was that I felt that there was another man in her life. And I knew nothing about her. I didn't even know she was married. She came back to the table, and my friend said, okay, tell her what you told me. And so I said, I feel like there could be another man in your life, but I certainly don't want to speak out of turn. And she started to cry, and she said, I'm happily married. I just had my third child, who's 6 months old, but I'm in love with my ex, who is on the other side. And what's so interesting about that, Marla, is that I felt her ex-boyfriend, they were not married at the time of his passing, I felt his presence, and he was telling me that he was with her and that they were together. And she proceeded to tell me about her experiences over the course of the last few months, where he would come visit her in the dream state. And it was so real that she was thinking about leaving her husband to go back to this relationship between her and someone who was deceased. And I was able to work through that through one luncheon. I was able to work through this. Incredible, right? I didn't even know at the time that was possible. So I helped her understand and helped her, beloved ex-boyfriend who was in spirit understand the importance of her needing to live her life.
Yes.
And to let go of him, and how that would be beneficial for both of them. And I just thought that was really an incredible story. And the amount of evidence that he brought through to prove it was him was really extraordinary. So those two things happened in the course of about, 6 to 8 months. And I went, okay, I better pay attention. So yeah, really, and she's, has a wonderful, beautiful family and is happily married. But I think she was so overwhelmed by the love, and it when you have that sense from spirit, when you experience that true love from the spirit realm, it's very overwhelming. And I think that she had a lot of questions about what to do, and she made all the right decisions for her and for her family, and her beloved on the other side is well, and they will see each other one day, and it will be a beautiful reunion. But at the time, it was a huge lesson for me.
Wow, what a beautiful story. I have read somewhere where you had said that when you connect with the other side, that the love is just so overpowering. So can you tell us a little bit about that, and also what you've learned of what it's like on the other side?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's true. It is. It's hard to put into words.
Yes.
It is, as a mother, there's this mother's love, and it's hard to describe it. It is just to your core, at the soul level. loving another being so much. And that's really how it feels when you connect with spirit.
Mhm.
It's something deeper than the physical. It is such a feeling of acceptance. That's a word that comes to mind. Acceptance and oneness and connection, where all of your doubts just fade away. And so when you're in that presence of spirit, when they start to bring, so what happens when I'm doing a session for someone, or when I'm, connecting in that way, I feel a physical presence come into my auric field. And the auric field is that energy field we all have around our physical body. So they're not coming into my physical vibration, but they are stepping so close that I can feel them. And it is a feeling like, well, it's different depending on how they get your attention. But for me, it's a knowing. It has evolved over the years where I will get a lot of facial sensation.
Mhm.
I get a tingling in my face, sometimes in my crown chakra. When they're very strong, people will tell me my lip twitches. I can't do it now because I can't recreate it. It's something the spirit world does.
Right.
But my lip will twitch when they're coming in a little bit, forceful. And so I know they're ready. They want me to speak and they want me to give the messages. So that's kind of the knowing for me. And then I just open up and try to get out of the way, because there's no room for my mind in this. And in fact, when my mind steps in, it goes haywire.
Right.
That's why I say I prefer not to know anything about anyone I ever read for, because then I know it was not in my subconscious, or someone would have told me that at some point in time. And, I think that's a really big concern for anyone having a reading. As a medium, we have huge responsibility to be authentic in how we receive and present the information. And I take that very seriously. So I know that what I'm feeling is coming from spirit, but there are absolutely times when I will get the information wrong. Any medium will. No medium is 100% accurate. And that is only due to the fact that the spirit world must use our frame of reference, right, to get their message across. It's a little bit like charades, because it's not like you and I having a very clear two-way communication. It is them impressioning upon me something. It can be a flicker of an image. It can be a scene from a memory. It can be, in the case of animals, I often see them just running around really quickly. So I might get that it was a medium-sized dog and the dog was black, and maybe it had a name that started with the letter B, but maybe that's all I get for a dog, for example. And so spirit, the intelligence behind, I don't want to say behind, the intelligence of the spirit world, and when they communicate with us and how they orchestrate that, is mind-blowing. And so I've learned that even the most, what seems simple or mundane kinds of messages or evidence might have a huge impact, as it did for you with the baseball, right? In the casing.
Yes.
I recently had a reading with a gal, and she enjoyed it very much, but she said near the end, she said, I asked her if there was anything else I could provide. And she said, I feel my mom here. I know my mom is connecting, but I just can't help but wonder, is there that one thing that she can give me that only she and I would know? And as a medium, you kind of go, oh boy, right? Because you want pressure and you want to give that, but you certainly want to make sure it's not your mind stepping in because somebody posed the question to you. So I said to her, heard the spirit say, be patient. And so I thought, okay, if it's meant to be and something's going to come, then they'll give it to me. Then it will be clear and that will be it. And I just trusted in that. But I changed the subject just briefly to something else and came back to it. And I said, well, what is interesting here is I'm being shown a stuffed elephant, not a teddy bear, but an elephant. do you connect with a stuffed elephant? Well, yes, she did. And earlier in the reading, I gave her the number 7 as being very significant, and she couldn't take that information. I said, I'm seeing the number 7 again. And she said, oh my gosh, I was given that elephant on my 7th birthday, and I still have it. And I thought, oh, isn't that beautiful? That's such a great message from her mother, but it got better. And then I said, oh, your mother wants me to be really specific here, because in my mind, my son has a similar, it wasn't an elephant, it was a rabbit, but has a similar stuffed animal, and named after a boy's name, a human. So I said, well, actually, your mother is telling me that this elephant is a girl, and you named it after a human name. And she said, yes, oh my gosh, that's exactly right. And I'm thinking in my mind, I know she wants me to give her the elephant's name, right, of the stuffed animal. Of course, you've gone that far. And so she thanked me. She was so happy. She was so happy that I was able to give her that, because only she would know that, and her mom would know that she had this beautiful stuffed elephant when she was 7, and still has it on her bed today, I guess. And as we were signing off, and I said, thank you so much, and I was saying my goodbyes and gratitude to the spirit world, I looked at her and I said, Ellie the elephant. And she said, are you kidding me? That was the stuffed elephant's name.
Wow.
So spirit knew, they'd already given evidence, right? They'd already shown her that this was her mother. But they really, I think, did that for me, Marla. Honestly, I really think that they gave me that last bit of information. One, because I didn't ask for it. That's a big, big lesson I've learned over the years, to expect the unexpected. So I say that to all of your listeners, because so many of us will say, I just need a sign. And if you give me this sign, I won't ask for anything else, right?
Right.
And then tomorrow
they want another
comes.
sign. And tomorrow comes.
Yes. And then tomorrow comes. And so, I think with that particular experience, it very much was similar, where spirit said, you didn't ask us for the name, but as a teaching, we're going to give it to you. That was the impression that I got from the spirit world. Yeah, that was the impression.
What an experience. You must just walk away from these things and wow.
I do. After that, when I said, wow, thank you, Spirit. I really wasn't expecting Ellie to be the name of the elephant, but I didn't have any expectation.
Right.
And that's when you're gifted with these signs or messages, truly. And so that's what I say to everyone every chance I can get now is release your expectation. And you can set the intention going into a reading. In your case, I'm sure you always want to hear from your son. Mm-hmm. However, there might be another spirit communicator who has wonderful messages for you, that if you miss those, you're missing a great opportunity for your own soul's growth. So that's what people have to always be open to as well.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, I hope I answered your question. I went off on a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, you did. Well, I want to go back to that in a second, but I did have a reading a while back, and Spirit brought through a message from my mother to my sister's daughter. Yeah. And I was like, wow. So that's important for people to know too, it may come in that form. So Anne, just to expand on the answer that you just gave, does the spirit world give you an idea of, you hear some say they do still have bodies, ethereal bodies, and they're working and they're playing and it's very much like the physical world, but it's full of love and happiness. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. From my experience, what I've been shown and told from the spirit world, as well as listening to, archives, for example, the Leslie Flint Trust has beautiful archives of the indirect voice phenomena, which I can't get enough of. I love listening to those. So what I've been shown is that once we make our transition, there's additional healing that needs to take place. So that might be an earthly time, days to weeks to months. Once that's complete, we are basically living our next life, which can be an extension of this life. For example, if we loved golfing in this life and golfing was our passion, we can still golf on the other side of life. Absolutely. We have homes. They create homes if that's important. Say, a wife passes before her husband and she wants to make a home. She wants to have a physical presence for when he comes to the other side of life. She does that. She can share then in a reading what she's done. I recently had this happen where they were living in the States, but what she was showing me was this beautiful little English countryside cottage. And the husband said to me that she always wanted that. She always wanted to live in England in the country and have sheep and this whole thing. And that's what she was describing, that their home would look like when he got there. And I just thought that was amazing. I just got chills thinking about that because it was so beautiful how she described it. And I thought, had my mind gotten in the way and knew that they were from Wisconsin, I probably would not have talked about an English countryside cottage.
No, probably not.
It would not have come up.
Right.
But I trusted in what Spirit was giving me. And she was saying, I'm preparing for you, which is in no hurry, no time soon. But that was important to her. She was quite the homemaker here on this side of life. And he said, nothing made my wife happier than making a beautiful, comfortable, home for our family.
Right.
And so it didn't surprise him in the least. That's what she was doing over there. I love to hear about people who are helping others cross over. I've worked with plenty of people who have transitioned by suicide, who are working with others on the mental health, challenges in this side of life. And that's the other thing I want to talk about is it's not you're on this side or that side. What has been very clear to me recently, yes, the essence of your soul is no longer on the physical plane. But when we talk about having Spirit help us and work with us and teach us and heal us, really, they talk about how they are getting spirit doctors, spirit healers, artists. If you are an artist in the spirit world, you might impression upon and coach and mentor someone who's in the living with their artwork. So they're able to impact what we're doing here in the physical realms 100%. If we're asking for their help, they're giving it. They want to make themselves known. It's not as if they transition to the other side and don't want to connect with us. In fact, it's just the opposite. You might have heard people say, we need more mediums. It's true. I believe that. We need more people to open up and be the messenger because the spirit world wants that. And I always say, if we know that our existence doesn't end with physical death, I believe we might be kinder, more gentle, more compassionate when we are living here. I think it will make us better people to know that we continue on. Yeah.
So speaking of that, well, first of all, I have to throw in, I've interviewed a lot of people who've had near-death experiences, and quite a few, including Peter Panagore, said that the only question he was asked when he was on the other side was, how have you loved? How have you loved?
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying right now, that then people know that that's really the most important thing. The most important thing you can do is how you treat others.
Yeah.
So, Anne, what would you tell a child who, knowing what you know now, that has either had a loved one pass or a puppy pass, or and they're going through that,
Yeah.
going through that grief, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say that first and foremost, grief is natural. Grief affects everyone differently. So your experience with grief and loss isn't going to be like someone else's. And that has to be okay. And you have to be okay with it because it's a natural part of our human condition, right? The next thing I would say in quick order to that is look at the positive. Look at the opportunities that you now have before you to have a relationship with a broader knowing and understanding and intelligence on the other side of life. You now have this personal connection to the other side. So, how can you utilize that for good? How can you utilize that to wake up every day feeling joy, feeling how you're going to make this life your very best? Because you know they're going to be there with you every day that you're walking on this earth. And then when you're not, when you transition, and they'll be with you to greet you. So it's coming from a place of being comfortable and secure with who you are and those around you that you love in the physical, and understanding that they're still present. They've just taken a different form. You can still talk with them. You might not get the same, immediate reaction, but if you listen and you work on your awareness, it's there. It's absolutely there. And so I would, as much as possible, encourage them to go within and really feel into those signs that show that their loved ones are with them.
And what a message it is for the adults in the child's life to also do that as,
That's right.
yeah, for themselves
That's
as
right.
mentors and all of that. Well, thank you so much, Anne. I so appreciate it. Is there anything that you would like to shout to the world or share that we haven't talked about?
Gosh, there's so much. This topic is just really endless.
Yes.
I think,
And your trance work. You're starting to do
yeah,
trance now. Do you
I
want
am.
to chat about that for a few minutes?
Yeah, I'm sitting for trance. I've been focused on it for about 3 years, and trance is another word for altered states of awareness. So it is a mental mediumship, which is what I do today in my work. Uh, it is also that form, but it's really becoming one with your spirit team. And there's typically one or two or maybe three spirit communicators that will work with the medium through that trance state. And so it's a matter of, sitting on a regular basis, being very vigilant about that, understanding the energy that you're feeling, and ultimately doing some speaking of trance, having your spirit team speak through you. And then there's also trance healing, where our spirit team helps to provide healing for those here in the physical or in the spiritual world. And that can be hands-on healing, or that can be remote healing. So it can be very, very powerful, and something that I've really naturally been pulled to.
Right.
And again, I think it's more of the spirit world telling me what I'm going to be doing. And I really just release to them and say, whatever it is you have for me, I'm here to serve. And that's my approach, rather than to try to have a preference. I think it's all connected.
Yes.
Mhm.
What do you do personally to do you meditate or the things that you do to nourish yourself?
Yeah, great question. I do. I meditate. Well, not every day. I meditate, I would say 4 to 5 days a week. And that's usually about 30 minutes for me, where I just quiet my mind and I sit and just really just allow spirit to do whatever it is they need to do. If they just need to work energetically through me, then so be it. I also sit for trance once a week. I have a home circle where I sit with right now 2 other people, And we sit and we just welcome spirit in. And sometimes we'll get certain, messages that come through, or maybe some phenomena or things like that. And that's always really exciting.
Yeah.
So that requires more of the energy of a small group. And that's kind of what I'm working more and more on. But definitely the meditation, sitting in the power as well, which is, if meditation is a passive state, sitting in the power is active. So I'm really sending out those messages to the spirit world to join me and provide healing or, energetic work. One of the things I've been very, very amazed by, especially in my trance work, is how much effort the spirit world makes to connect with us, to make sure that the energetic vibration of my body, the vessel, as you will, is in tune to receive from them in the best way that it can. So that's something I take, very, very seriously. Mental health is so important as a medium, to balance yourself, whether it's through yoga or just walking, getting outside and walking, and exercise and things like that. I think that's all really, really important. And to make sure that anything that you need to focus on yourself, whether that's past traumas or, like I said, anything mental, working through those and being the best that you can be to serve the spirit world is very, very important, because we do see people that want to serve the spirit world, but what happens is they'll get stuck, or they'll not be able to really reach their full potential because they need to work on themselves first.
Right.
So
That
that's
makes
very
sense.
important for all of us, really.
Mhm.
So for those that want to make connections with their loved ones in spirit, work on yourself. Allow yourself to be that, open your awareness
Yes.
to the best of your ability. Yeah.
And isn't it true that you do need to ask for spirit to come through, or ask for help?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so?
I don't believe that. Now, I think that it really depends. And maybe your question is about, there are many people that believe, we need permission to do this work, or
Right.
things like that. So
No,
I
I
should
don't really
clarify
mean that.
Okay.
I guess I was talking more about spirit guides.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I believe that they're with us all the time. I think that, again, you choose. So yes, you can ask them to become, if it's something you really want to develop. Yes, I would say definitely, Marla, that's something where you want to say, please come be with me, show me the path, help me understand what these messages mean. That is important. But I will say that spirit walks beside us, whether we open our awareness to it or not.
Right.
And the beauty of it is, that's just part of the soul continuing on. And that's how strong love is. That's how strong love is. When our loved ones pass to the other side, whether we ask them to come and give us signs or be with us and work with us in this capacity or not, you can rest assured they're there. They're helping you, even if it's not in a mediumistic way. It is to ensure that, you're comforted and you're doing what you need to be doing on your own journey.
Well, Anne, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you're happy in Arizona, but I miss you here in California.
Oh, I miss the ocean.
Well, you can come and visit anytime.
Oh, be careful what you wish for.
Well,
I love
thank
it.
you. And if people want to find you, how would they do that?
Absolutely. Well, they can check me out on Facebook and Instagram as Medium Anne Van Orsdel. And then my website is annevanorsdel.com.
Beautiful website,
Yep.
by the way.
Thank you. So I try to be active on social, just it's one way to express myself and to express what I'm receiving from spirit. And then, I do private readings right now and teaching and mentoring, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Anne. I really appreciate it. And I am sure you'll be back.
Oh, thank you for having me. Such a pleasure. Good to see you.
Good to see you. You have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Marla. Bye-bye.